Okay, Kev, so we have a
Yes.
special guest here with us today. Who is it?
We are very excited here to be joined by Audrey Middleton, Big Brother house guest. Yes, outside the house now, of course, because she was the third house guest evicted on the show. Audrey, thank you so much here for joining Nick and I here on our show.
I'm excited. What's up? What's up?
Yeah. So what have you been up to since you left the house?
I've just been busy doing press and talking and trying to get used to my Twitter having activity.
Now, was there anything on your list where you're like, this is the first thing I want to do when I get out of this house?
I don't know if I've gotten to really accomplish that yet. Maybe like get more than 4 hours of sleep, but I haven't even gotten that yet.
I can totally understand. When I came out of the house, it was such a whirlwind, and I think only house guests can understand this, that your life completely changes in the time that you go on national television. I mean, millions and millions and millions of people who didn't know you exist now know you exist. Maybe they can relate to you. Maybe they want to just like be a fan, like whatever it is, but your whole entire social circle, your whole world changes like that. And you actually don't know how much it changes until you go back home. And so there's this whole period of time where you're kind of like at a distance with almost your old self. You're like, well, I'll see how this new thing goes. And I was
a new you kind of thing.
You really like, you transform, and then you're just like, all right, now I'm post CBS. Like, let's see what happens now. So I totally understand. I spent a lot of time like in a dark room resting. It was exhausting. The whole process was.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's insane, but I feel like super grateful because I feel like I've had an overwhelming like positive response since I've been out. And I don't know if like every house gets that once they leave.
Yeah.
Trust me, not everyone does. I don't know if you watched my season or not, but not everybody gets a positive welcome home.
Yeah. And for, those of you that are watching this that don't know much about Big Brother, Audrey was the first transgender contestant on the show. And I wanted to start out by just recognizing, Audrey, the courage that it must have taken to come on the show and kind of reveal yourself as a transgender person. I was curious what was going into your thought process about using the kind of Big Brother forum to be able to do that, how you kind of decided that would be the way that you would reveal yourself to the world, really.
It was really difficult. It was something I had to think about a lot, especially before I even considered applying. I had like a big, I was very reserved. Like before this, I was very introverted. I wasn't out in my real life. I just kept to myself and I laid under the radar in my personal life. And so I really wanted to do this experience because I've always been a fan of the show. I've always loved Big Brother, always loved Survivor. And I've always wanted to be a part of some kind of challenge like this. And so to be able to show myself that I have the courage to do it, that's one thing, but this experience was a lot bigger than just myself. So I really had to, I don't know. Once I had that torch, I knew I was going to have to pass it on. And it was really important for me to exemplify the same courage and willingness to other people. And I felt like what better platform for someone to get to know someone that's transgender and learn about them, where you can literally watch them 24/7. Even though I went a little bit crazy in the house, and I don't know if that helped, but shit happens. I'm a human.
Yeah. Well, I think we can, if anyone's a fan of Big Brother, they can relate. That house does crazy things to you.
Yeah.
My question is like, why now? Like specifically, like at this point in your life, like why did you decide that right now was the time to do it?
I'm 25. I feel like I've been kind of in my mid-20s life crisis. I've prevented myself from a lot of opportunities out of fear of other people and what they'll think of me. And I don't like feeling like I'm carrying around this big burden of a secret. And so I don't feel like, justifying your gender or sexuality to anyone is even necessary. But just for, I guess, for myself to feel better. And I guess I just have to adapt because that's just, where we are as like in evolution right now. And so I don't know.
Yeah, now, a lot of the fans of the show just kind of you're just kind of dropped into their lives as a 25-year-old transgender person.
Yeah.
But, talk a little bit about what that process is like of being transgender and kind of how you transition, and then maybe when you knew that that's how you identified yourself.
I think a lot of transgender people will be able to identify with this, is that it's just something that like when you're younger, before you even can articulate words, you just know. How I try to have it make sense to other people is that, we're a sensory species. Like, we identify with things that appeal to our human senses, like our human nature. And I don't think a lot of people are accountable for how they developed even their own preferences. And that's what it comes down to, is that everybody just has different ones. Like, that's what human nature is. And, this is my body is my vessel. It's my life. I can do what I want with it. And I should be able to live what I believe is my truth. And this is it for me. And I feel like everyone should be doing the exact same. I don't know why, like, we've been on this earth for so fucking long and we can't, like, get along with each other. Like, what the hell is wrong with us?
Yeah, I think a lot of people can really relate to that, whether you're transgender or not. Everybody has got maybe some aspect of themselves they don't feel like that they can really reveal to other people or the world. So I think everybody can identify with that.
I just went to VidCon this last weekend, and there was this panel, and they basically got to talking about how the internet has allowed people to communicate in ways that other generations could not. And because of that, the millennial generation has snowballed this idea and this general acceptance, much more so than a lot of other generations past. And now I feel like we're in this really developmental good time, especially here in Los Angeles. It's not as a quandary. It's not exactly a question about what is that? It's very accepting, open. Okay, yes, that's how you want to live your life. We get it. We understand. And it's everyone's down to hang out. It's almost like what people had envisioned for the future. It does happen in some places like Los Angeles.
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the rest of the world to catch up.
Yeah, and then they showed your family on national television, and it seemed like they were extremely supportive. I was just going to kind of give you an opportunity to talk about what it's been like for your family, and then what it was like for you, kind of, or them going through your transition with you, really.
So my family's background is they're devout Catholics. They both grew up very conservative, very sheltered, and they both have kind of had a narrow view of life. And then they have me, a total radical to their lifestyle and what they understand about life in the world. And so in the beginning, I wish it was they just picked it up right away and we were all on the same page, but it wasn't like that. There was definitely some opposition, and we overcame that opposition together. And it isn't just me that's transitioning into the person that I am, but, they have to transition as well. And I can empathize for their position because, as humans, I guess what I feel like is the most ironic thing is that we want to just feel comfortable, and we're all naturally resistant to change because we like to have our comfort zone and we don't like to leave our comfort zone. And, I don't bear children, I don't have children, but I can understand especially why my mother had such a hard time with it, because you have these children and you have a connection with them, and it is they are yours, they are part of you. And then 21 years later, they want to just do something totally radical, and you feel like you don't even know that person. And so I can see why that is something that's mentally difficult to grasp. But I don't think that it helps that I feel like a lot of us put this rigid pressure on for having the standard of this is how life is. And life is not in black and white. It's not going I feel like sexuality, sexual orientation, gender equality, all these things, they don't need to be justified. We just are. We're a weird species. And I feel like there are way more important things that need to be under a microscope and a bigger concern than someone who, you know, I don't know, is exploring who they are and, you know, what their preferences are. Does that make sense?
You are so well spoken. Like I feel like this was like, I know you did not read on a teleprompter for that, but like I just like was in a trance for the last like 3 minutes, just like, go on, tell me your story. Like I think like your choice to do this was at a perfect time, specifically like in American culture. I think there was like a little bit of acceptance with Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah. And so I think like along with this, like the timing of it, like, and I think your understanding of it is so brilliant that like,
right.
This is like so great. Like, I'm just like so proud of you for doing this and for you for using Big Brother. And like, I'm connected to this because I was on Big Brother. So like, kudos. That's awesome. Yeah. So,
and
great.
you know,
before I did Big Brother, or before I even applied, like right when I applied way back in December, like on the cusp of November and December. I was a really early applicant. And this was before like all the Caitlyn Jenner stuff even came out. Like she was just about to come out. So I think like everything is synchronized. Everything happens for a reason. It was the perfect time. I'm super blessed that everything happened the way that it did. And even though I looked like a fool on TV with a blanket over my head and sunglasses, that this is something I can still talk about and wasn't totally ruined because of that.
So I think you actually mentioned something of our next question, and that was, you know, in your last week in the house, you kind of saw it coming. I mean, it was like pretty evident that, you know, you were the target. Can you tell us how you like dealt with that during your last week?
You know, dealing with knowing you're leaving. I mean, basically the HOH sat on my face and took a big shit on it. Like I couldn't have missed it. Like it was just right there. And it's hard. It's really difficult to deal with. Especially when you're a super fan and the Big Brother days are so long. A lot of people don't understand that. Feeders might understand that. But when you're in there, you don't have a lot of things to distract yourself like you would in real life. And there's very limited privacy. Like the walls are so thin there. You really struggle to get and be alone and have like that space to yourself. And so for me, I started with just alienating myself, literally like looking like an alien and then separating myself from the whole fucking house and the have-not room. And people were empathizing for me and I'm appreciative and brought me food and that was nice and shady all at the same time. But eventually I was just like, I can't be around anyone. I just need to like be alone because this isn't helping me. And that's when when Audrey went to the DR for 5 fucking hours. I didn't even realize it was that long. That's pretty kind of funny.
On the outside world, that was like the breaking news for everyone who like reads and like keeps up on all the feeds and everything. On our side, it was like, whoa, what happened for 5 hours in the DR? Like, we need to figure this out.
I mean, it's a rite of passage to have a meltdown on Big Brother. So I don't regret it. Like the whole point of the experiment or experience is to make yourself vulnerable. You know you're vulnerable when you're going into it. So I wasn't going to hold back. I made myself vulnerable right off the bat by just revealing I was transgender. And so how I dealt with stress was kind of hilarious now that I'm looking back on it, because in real life, I don't do that. I actually crawl under my bed in real life. I've got a nice little space under there and a tiny pillow and everything. Sometimes I leave a snack just in case. But I don't know. It just manifested the way that it did. And it was hard. I just was overwhelmed with emotion. I'm a passionate person. And when you're really passionate, you have tons of emotions because you can't have one without the other, be one without the other. And it is what it is.
And you mentioned on day one that you revealed to the house that you were transgender. Was that your plan going in? Now, do you regret almost revealing it, maybe holding that as kind of a piece of information that maybe you could leverage down the road? Do you feel like that made you a target at all? And would you do it all over again?
No. I mean, now being out, I've heard that some people were worried that there was going to be backlash if they targeted me. And I don't know if that's even true. I never got that vibe when I was in there. It was really important for me to I felt like pressure because you're going on this platform, millions of people are watching. You don't want to fuck it up, especially while this is such a huge topic right now at the forefront of everyone's consciousness. And so it was really important for me to just go in there, make myself vulnerable, and then exemplify, the reality of coming out. And I just wanted to get it over with. From a personal perspective, it was important because I really needed to exemplify that courage to other people because this is a real suppressed minority. It's still misunderstood. There's transgender people taking their lives, victims of violence, and they're scared to come out of their families or their families don't understand. And so it was really powerful and kind of amazing to have like the warm response that I did right when I came out.
Yeah.
Like I really felt like after the first day, everyone forgot. And the people who hated me, they just genuinely fucking hated me. Like I could have asked for a more genuine, authentic experience here.
Now, speaking of people, quote unquote, hating you, do you have any frustration with any of the cast members, specifically someone like Shelly, who was HOH when you got evicted?
Yes, but at the same time, I have to just be accountable for my part in it. I shouldn't have gone to her and ratted out Vanessa about the little final two combo we had. I also shouldn't have expected anything less because I've watched her breastfeed Clay for 4 weeks. And so it is what it is. I saw him on the boob. There was no way to he had such a good grip. I couldn't get in there. I tried. And yeah, so I was hurt, but at the same time, it's my fault because I could have maybe done something differently. And also I pissed off the HOH and the veto holder, like the two people you don't want to piss off.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about your strategy going into the house and then what you would say maybe to people that argued that you might have played too hard in the game or too hard too quickly. Do you agree with that or would you have a comment to the people that would say that?
No, I learned a lot about myself, which you do when you go through something like this or anything big in your life. And my strategy originally was to be like Dexter Morgan, I'm just going to be stealthy, under the radar, calculated, listen more than I talk. That didn't happen. I was like a fucking Acme anvil. I just went in there and just started wrecking shit. And I think that in my real life, what I learned is that for 25 years, I've had to assert myself to fight for my integrity, my independence, and to be who I am, despite all the outside influences that wanted me to conform. And in that house, it wasn't very different because people were like, stop being paranoid, stop talking game for 5 seconds, even though I think it was very hypocritical. Like, okay, you're telling me not to be paranoid, but what I learned afterwards, yes, there were conversations going on about the possibility of, well, if this doesn't work out, Audrey's the backdoor option or this or that. And I felt like I needed to be assertive in the house. What I learned is I don't like feeling like my fate is in the hands of someone else. And so, yes, I'm going to fight for my life. Like that's the personality type that I am. Also, I don't think that it helped that I played those online games either. Because those games they last sometimes up for a month or two, but they're fast paced. You're playing with super fans, so you're talking game all the time. You're also talking to multiple people at a time. And yeah, if I could do it over again, and maybe I will, who knows, I would not do what I did. I'd shove a blanket down my throat before I ever put it on my head so no words come out of my mouth.
I have such a similar experience with my time on Big Brother. Like I wanted to be like super under the radar. And for the most part, what ended up happening is that I actually had a very under the radar game, quote unquote, but it was played very, very strongly, if you will, because I didn't want my fate to be in anyone else's like random chance of whatever. So I always took steps every day to make sure that I wasn't going home, but hey, man, that's Big Brother, so it backfired as much as it ever could.
It is what it is. And I think what's really cool, though, about watching the show is how I feel like you get a firsthand look at how karma works.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's very a real thing in that house. And so my back was against the wall. And yes, I totally was lying like a mofo. And I was like sticking with my lies. I was committed to them. I looked everyone in the eye in that have not room who called me out. I was like, we were not in that room and that never happened. You're all fucking lying except for me. And even though I was still lying, the way that Davon approached it and how she kind of treated me that week, it was just interesting to see how the cards were dealt the following week. Because the one person who made this big spectacle about it and made me like the number one target was the person that went home.
Yeah.
And I feel the same thing happened with Jeff too.
Oh yeah.
I want to ask you a question about your life motto, Audrey, which is throw me to the wolves, I'll come out leading the team. Do you feel like, how do you feel like that motto was either realized or not realized as in playing the game? Did you play that way? Did you not play that way? What was it like taking that motto into the house?
No, like I said, I'm an assertive personality type. And so, I kind of went in there and I was trying to lead the pack. And I think I was for like 24 hours. I became like an important source for information in the beginning until people started to connect some dots. Yeah. But, it was throw me to the wolves and I'll be the fucking piece of bacon that everybody gets to a piece of.
You have to update your motto, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to fit on a placard of any sort, but hey, at least it's truthful.
Yeah.
So for this next part, we call this Turbo Round. It's actually Turbo Round players. And so what this is, we're going to say a phrase, and you have to tell us the first thing that comes to your mind. Like immediately, like not a whole lot of thinking, just right off the cuff.
Yeah, it can be a word, it can be a couple sentences. It's kind of up to you, but just kind of rapid fire here.
So are you ready for Turbo Round?
I guess.
Okay, here we go. Who's the most likable?
Me.
Who is the cleanest house guest?
Shelly.
Which house guest has the weirdest habit?
Clay.
And what is that habit?
Opening his mouth.
Who is the laziest?
Clay.
Who's the most trustworthy in the house?
Me.
Who's the least? Yeah, I think I know the answer.
I'm a narcissist. All my answers are going to be the same here. Okay.
Who's the least trustworthy house guest?
James.
Who's the best cook?
Liz or Julia. I don't know. They're
Who's
the same.
The worst cook?
James.
What comes to mind for you when we say the name Johnny Mack?
White crayon. Like he's in the box, but what the hell is he doing in the box? Like I don't get it.
Talk a little bit more about this white crayon thing. I'm curious to know more about your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't he is a part of the crayon box, but what is the fucking point of the white crayon? Like no one you can't see it when you use it. Like it's pointless. It's irrelevant. I don't understand. And then you see the show and you're like, oh, why is he yelling so much? And why didn't he yell like that when you were in the house with him?
Have you seen a different person than, I guess, being in the house versus how CBS portrays him to the viewers?
Yeah. For one, I didn't know he was a super fan. He played that off really well. He just is not who he's presenting himself in the house. So he's either playing a really great game or he's just weird.
Which is the real Johnny Mack?
Yeah.
Which is the real Johnny Mack then?
I don't know. I would like the real Johnny Mack to please fucking stand up because I would like to know.
Who is your favorite house guest?
Of all time?
Of this season.
All time. This season, I guess Vanessa.
Okay. How about your least favorite? I think I also know the answer to this.
Clay.
Now talk a little bit more about Clay because Shelly was, she was directly responsible, but it seems like out of all the house guests, he's kind of the one you have the most hate for.
Yeah, I think it's just become this very bitter rivalry between the two of us. I feel like it went, after the first week in the Have Not room when everything went downhill, I stayed in my bed and I played dead. And I cried and wanted people to empathize for me. And Shelly was one of the people who went out of her way, I think, on a very genuine, personable level that she didn't have to. She did act as a voice for me in certain situations where she didn't have to do that. And Clay puts on this, he projects this air of, I'm this Southern guy, I've got all these values, I'm close with my mom, and wants to be the all-American guy. But I just didn't think that he exemplified that once you, I don't know, lived with him. And it could just be the game. And for now, that's all I'll ever know. So that's all I'm going to judge him by. But even though my instincts, and actually, I don't know if my instincts were that far off, like a lot of the times in the house, but I feel like the way I executed things was just dead awful. But I feel like as a person, there's something off. There's something off.
Interesting.
Yeah. In the house, sometimes it's strange because, you know, this isn't like a real world setting. And so because you're playing a game, everyone's kind of throwing out something different than who they are in real life, because, you know, they almost don't want you to know who they are, because if they did, then they'd be giving away a lot of their game.
But at certain points in the game, it's inevitable. Like you can't, I don't think anyone has been able to hide all of who they are.
I agree with that.
Even Johnny Mack, even though he's super hard to read and he's doing a good job at laying low and under the radar, I just think there are certain parts of your personality type, especially when you're living with someone 24/7 in that type of situation too, you can't conceal yourself totally unless you're like a complete sociopath.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. What was the most bizarre food or drink they had in the Big Brother house that you were not prepared for?
I guess the fake chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, the soy chicken nuggets or the Morningstar chicken nuggets. It wasn't real chicken. And then drink was, I didn't think there would be so much chocolate milk.
Are house guests allowed to make requests? I don't know if I even know the answer. Yeah?
You are, but it's not always fulfilled. So it's like, you're like, I would love a pork chop. Maybe 2 weeks later, maybe they'll get it for you, maybe they won't.
Yeah. And who right now, Audrey, is your pick to win Big Brother 17?
Vanessa.
And why is that?
You know, she is a brilliant woman. And I think when you see her resume, like, it all checks out. And even her, like, she couldn't hide it herself when she was in there. Like, it oozes from her pores. And if you're talking to her on a personal level for more than 20 minutes, you really, really start to see it. But the most brilliant thing is that she's actually been upfront about most things. She said she was a professional poker player. She said she's a DJ. She said she's from Vegas. She said she's traveled all these places. She knows all these languages. She's spoken about her education. Yes, she didn't say that she went to school for strategy or whatever, but she said she went to school for law at Duke. You know, like, her accolades couldn't be more up there and impressive. So you know she's brilliant, but no one has read too deeply into that. And then there have been certain people who have been like, I don't know about Vanessa. She might be America's player. She's someone that we need to watch out for. I think she's going to win, blah, blah, blah. But no one has asserted themselves to really do anything about it. I did, but that backfired.
So what is next?
What's next for you, Audrey?
For me?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of adjusting my sails according to the tides. And so right now I'm transitioning back into real life. I obviously want to pass on this torch that I'm carrying, and I hope to see more people coming from, you know, the transgender community coming out, speaking on television or public forums, educating people. I'd really like to be able to do the same. I hope that it's possible, because I also have this very like dry sense of humor about me that sometimes is very inappropriate, which might contradict some of the things that I'm speaking about. But I don't know. I want to speak more. I want to meet more people and their families, and I don't know. I want to help.
We'd like to kind of give you a forum here. I mean, I think over the summer you've reached and touched a lot of people that may be struggling with issues about themselves and don't feel they can be themselves. If one of those people is watching this right now, what would you say to them? How would you address them? How would you maybe inspire them?
I would say that you just have to commit to who you are. You have to have a realization that no one is perfect, and you should never try to compete with that standard. The only standard you need to compete with is the standard that you have for yourself. And it's important to make sure that you are doing whatever you can to live up to that, and make sure that it's authentic. You know, everyone deep down knows who they are, but we change and filter ourselves to, I guess, appeal to this outside world that ultimately it doesn't matter if you're not happy, and everything starts with you. So if you want to pursue the life of your dreams, if you want to make it in this world and, you know, be able to really sleep at night, be content and genuinely be happy, it starts in here. And that's where everybody needs to look first. Inwardly, work on yourself and just live your fucking truth. Who cares? Be a real life fucking Power Ranger. Be a real life Power Ranger.
That's a great quote to end on right there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think I'm going to tweet that out, actually. You know, in fact, that's going to be the name of this video. It's going to be, quote, be a real life Power Ranger with Audrey. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, you've definitely inspired a lot of people here this summer. Thanks for your courage, your bravery, and coming on the show, and also making for a very entertaining season a couple weeks that you were there. And, you know, thank you again for being on with us.
Yes, thank you. We really
Someone's got to be the hot mess on Big Brother.
Every year, there's always one.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much to Audrey for coming on our show here. Anybody watching, Nick and I do weekly Big Brother shows, have the house guest on. We break down the week in Big Brother. We're very, very excited to be joined by Audrey. So
we have a new video every Tuesday. And Audrey, where can people find you on all your social media outlets?
You can find me at ODDREYM, that's Audrey M, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and any other fake profile that exists on the internet. But those three are for sure the real me. So hit me up. I'm trying to respond to messages, but it's overwhelming. Like, there's a lot.
Overwhelming positive, hopefully?
Oh, all positive.
Okay,
everything.
good.
I haven't seen one thing that's negative, but I don't really look for that.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't read like one article or anything.
It is a full-time job. I remember getting back to everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you so much. We super appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey.
If you like this video, click here to subscribe. New videos every week.